If you've been following us for a while, you know we've made a video on the rumor mill surrounding Canon's move into the retro market. For months, the chatter has been all about a potential mirrorless tribute to the legendary AE-1 to mark its 50th anniversary. But then CP Plus 2026 in Yokohama actually happened, and Canon decided to throw us a massive curveball. Instead of a standard SLR-styled body, they debuted what they're calling the Analog Concept Camera. It's a box-style waist-level finder rig that feels like it was ripped straight out of a 1950s street photographer's kit, but with a digital heart. We didn't have a chance to get our hands on the unit ourselves just yet, but from what we can see, this is easily the most experimental and divisive thing Canon has shown off in a decade. It's a bold departure from the conservative, risk-free ecosystem we've come to expect. As we look at the design and the way it's built to function, we start to realize that this isn't just a retro skin, it's a complete reimagining of how we interact with light and glass. Looking at the construction, the first thing that hits us is the form factor. While we were expecting something based on a classic SLR, we can see this concept is styled after vintage medium format box cameras like the Hasselblad 500 or the Rolleiflex. It is incredibly small, literally palm-sized, and designed to be held in the left hand while the right hand handles the manual controls. From the details available, the build materials look surprisingly premium. Canon showcased two different design iterations, a retro version with angular, boxy lines and a metallic texture reminiscent of 1960s gear, and a modern version that's a bit more rounded and minimalist. This is an all-in-one unit focused entirely on the experience of the shot. One of the most fascinating parts of the build is how it handles light. We can see this isn't just a digital sensor with a screen on top. It uses a dual mirror optical system. Light enters through the lens, hits the first mirror, which reflects it upward onto a ground glass screen in the waist-level finder, and then a second mirror flips out to reflect that image onto the sensor when the shutter is engaged. It's an analog process capturing onto a digital sensor, very similar in spirit to the Fujifilm Instax Evo series, but much more mechanical in execution. The shooting process here looks both surreal and incredibly cool. Because we can see the viewfinder is a top-down optical waist-level affair, we aren't looking at a digital preview with focus peaking or zebras. We are looking at actual optical depth of field and real bokeh on ground glass. It forces us to slow down and really consider the frame. The focus ring on the lens is entirely manual. On the prototype models, the focus throw appears a bit limited, and we can see it might be tricky to judge the distance perfectly in tight spaces. However, we have to remember this is an incredibly early build, more of a proof of concept than a finished product. The pre-production designs actually suggest a move toward a dedicated focus wheel on the side, which should improve that tactile, pleasant operation feel Canon is aiming for. The shutter mechanism on the prototype is a rocker switch on the right-hand side, but the final designs look to be moving toward a traditional circular button on the front. We can see that when it's clicked, the unit is designed to make a satisfying mechanical clack as the mirrors move. It's loud, it's physical, and it's a far cry from the silent electronic shutters we're used to in 2026. It caters perfectly to the slow photography movement, those of us who want to take our time rather than just machine gunning shots at 20 frames per second. Now, if we look at this from a pure spec sheet perspective, some people are going to be disappointed. We can see the prototype is running a 1-inch 6-megapixel sensor. Yes, you heard that right, 6 megapixels. In an era of 50-megapixel flagships, that sounds like a joke, but we have to look at what Canon is trying to achieve here. The sensor isn't capturing light directly from the subject, it's capturing the image projected onto the internal ground glass screen. It's about the vintage-looking quality and the sense of presence rather than raw resolution. The heat distribution shouldn't be an issue here since we're dealing with a low-resolution sensor and no high bitrate video processing, and in terms of connectivity, we can see it's got a USB-C port, which is really its only concession to the modern world. The power consumption is likely very low given the lack of an EVF or a massive rear screen, and the noise level is restricted to that mechanical mirror slap. This is a dedicated photo-first machine. So where does this leave us? On one hand, we are absolutely amazed at how experimental Canon has become. This is the same company that once stayed strictly inside the lines, and now we can see them building waist-level digital box cameras. We love that they are looking for new ways for us to experience photography beyond just chasing higher megapixels and faster AI. The analog concept camera, I would say, is really for the purists. It's for the street photographers who want to be less intrusive by looking down at their waist rather than holding a big rig to their eye. It's for the people who miss the ritual of photography, the clack of the mirror, the turn of the focus ring, and the deliberate wait for the right moment. The cooking speed, or in this case the shot-to-shot time, is intentionally slow to facilitate that or space between things. Canon is currently inviting feedback from everyone at CP Plus to see if there's actually a market for this. They're asking about handling, the vintage image quality, and whether we'd actually open our wallets for it. Personally, we hope the reception is as warm as it felt on the show floor. We would love to see this hit the market, even as a limited run, because it's just so refreshingly different. What do you guys think? Is this Digital Rolleiflex something you'd actually add to your kit, or is it just too much of a regression for you? Would you prefer this boxy design, or are you still holding out for that AE1 mirrorless tribute? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video if you found this breakdown helpful, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our deep dive when the final version of this thing hopefully drops. Catch you in the next one.